So here, what we have done is we first of all declared the function, and within that function we declare what is going to happen with the inputs. So we don't take the inputs right now. We just define the function. So here, for example, we are we are calculating the power of a number. Okay, so as we all know, any number to the power 0 is always equals to 1. So we have already stated that condition. So n, if n equals to 0, then it will give us 1. Then again, we also know that if the any number is powered to 1, it gives that number back. So if n equals to 1, it gives us x as a result. Then we calculate the real power using any natural number that is given as an input. So here we calculate that. Then we call that function later, and we give the inputs over here. So what happens in this is however many times we can call the function, that will not affect the function in any way. No powers will change, no values will change over here. It will just use the function to calculate the result and give us the value. Okay, so here 4 to the power 2 is 16, and again if we do the same thing with 5 and 3, 5 to the power 3 is 125. So that is recursion. Then there's closure. Now what closure does is, closure is also means it is also like recursion, but here what we do is we declare a variable and we set a value to the variable which we can increment or decrement from outside the function. So here, for example, we have declared a variable add, and we have declared it as a function. Then we have declared the counter with an initial value of 0. Then we have declared that every time the function is called, the counter will increase by either 1 or yes, it will increase by 1, and it will return us the value of the counter, means that is the increased value of the counter, means after being incremented. So if we write call the function over here, add, what it will do is it will give us the value of the counter, but we have not input any value. By default it takes 1 as an input. So here the value of the counter will increase to 1. Now if we again call the function, in this time with input 3, so here we have called the function, so that increase the value of the counter to 1. So now when we call the function, it will take 1 plus the input, that is 3. So 1 plus 3, the output would be 4. Then again if we do the same thing with minus 2, it will give us 4 minus 2, so that would be 2. So the main difference between recursion and closure is recursion, in recursion we can use, in both the recursion and closure we can use the function as many times as we want, but in recursion the function won't be changed at all, but in closure the function can be altered from outside. Okay, so then the new function, this is a special characteristic of JavaScript which is not available in many languages. There are a few, like some forms of JavaScript like TypeScript and CoffeeScript, all those things. But today we are seeing JavaScript. So new function is pretty amazing because it means it helps us simplify our code by a lot. Like here we need to define a function that will subtract one number from another. So if we did it the old way, that would be like we have to declare two variables, var a, b. Then will have to declare what happens with the numbers. So let's say sum equals to a minus b, and then we need to return sorry. Okay, so this is what we need to do to get a means subtraction of two numbers. But using new function, what we can do is we simply write let subtract is equals to new function a b written a minus b. In other words, you can write it as as we would write in normal language. It's more or less we are writing all the variables and what it will do within a single line. So then we can input the values later. Over here, when we are calling the function back, like let subtract, we are putting the inputs of a and b. So 8 and 5. The output would be 3, as we know 8 minus 5 is 3. Then if we do it again, the output would be 9 and 2, which is 7. Now this function is means it is good, but it is a runtime function, which means that these other kind of functions, these are compiled means in the compiling time, means compile time functions. But what the new function, as there are no variables means declared, all those things are done means after the function is called. Like over here, when we call the function subtract, it takes the values of 8 and 5 and declares it declares them as variable a and variable b. So all this happens in the runtime. So that's the difference. But it helps us to means quickly add small functions such as this to a much larger array where we don't want to disturb the main function. Okay. After that is the arrow function. Now the arrow function is very important in JavaScript. If you see in promises and API call fetch, so the arrow function is very much means important for all those kind of things. Now, what the arrow function does is it also helps us simplify our code, but in a different way. So when we declare hello equals to means hello equals to, and then we invoke the function, and then we declare what is going to happen inside the function. Now this can also be written like simply like function hello, and but there would be a problem over here. Now this we cannot write this over here because this is a closed function. Means a normal function is a closed function. So if we use a global variable, then it is okay. But right now, as we are not using any variable, so it is a closed function. Now this term cannot be used over here, but in the arrow function, this can be used. So what this stands for is we can input the means value of this term over here. Okay, so when we write window.add event listener load hello, which means that it will wait for the function to load. Okay, then we detect a click and we run the function hello. So first of all, we are waiting for the function to load. Then we are means activating the click detection. But in these functions, we don't need to wait for the load function. It's for the function to load. We can directly activate the click. So that's the difference between the arrow function and the normal function. Any doubts so far? Anyone? Okay. So let's move on to the next function. So rest parameters and spread operator. So rest parameter is it is also means kind of means a function where we don't declare the inputs while defining the function, but in rest parameters we can take as many number of inputs as we want. Means later like in recursion we can only take one input, like we can take 3, or 2, or over here we can take only 2 because we have declared 2 variables, so we can only take these two, 8 and 5. But in rest parameter, if we see, we have declared the parameter function and inputs. Now, dot 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 input means we don't know how many inputs are there. There are gonna be. It can be means infinite. So then we declared let sum equals to 0, and we declare a for which what it does simply is, if we input four like 4 numbers, it will go through all the 4 numbers and it will add them all to the variable sum. So if we input over here like 1, 2, and 3, it will add 0 plus 1, then plus 2, plus 3. This let I of input, it goes through all the numbers one by one and it adds them to sum. So then we return sum. So the total we will get the total of all the numbers we have input. So over here, if you see, now this does not this does not change the value of the sum like it happened in closure. Okay, the value of the sum always stays 0. So over here, if we input console.log for 1 and 2, so the 1 and 2 is the input here. So we have put two numbers, so it will give us 1 plus 2 equals to 3. Then again, if we input 3 numbers, it will give us the answer 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals to 6. Like this, we can input as many numbers as we want. There will not be any problem. It will give us an output every time. Okay. Then the next part of it is the spread operator. Now, what the spread operator it does is, it is kind of like the union function in like sets and Venn diagrams we did in mathematics. If you remember, that union of two sets is all the total means total of all the numbers in the two sets. So here, let's declare an array 1, 2, 3 and array 2 as 4, 5, and 6. So then, if we declare means over here we have written console.log dot 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 array1 and array2, which simply means is take all the values from array1 and put them as input into this array, and then again take all the values from array2 and put them as input into this array. Then when we print console.log array, this array, it will give us all the values, means in the two arrays. So if for example here we had 7 numbers and here we had 8 numbers, so there would be like 15 numbers over here. Okay. then there's global objects. Now, global objects are basically all those objects which means we can define in, means we can call anytime without affecting any other function in JavaScript, such as, for example, alert means hello. We can also write this as window.alert. So these two functions are basically the same. Okay, they do the same function and they won't affect any other function. So these are what global objects do. Okay, now function object. This is also a very important function. So JavaScript treats its objects as functions if we define them as so. So here we have declared a function f2, and then we have declared 2 variables as a and b, and we haven't put anything inside the means function because we just want to declare these variables. Then we have declared another function many. So in many, what we have done is we have input a, b, we have input a, b, and dot 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 more. Just like we write in mathematics as 1, 2, 3, then dot 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 and full stop, which means it can go up to infinity. We don't know. Okay. Now, both of these are functions, right? So here these two variables are means these are variables. So if we write over here f2 dot length, which is the length of this function, it would be 1 and 2. And again, when we write alert many.length, again it will give us 2. Why? Because it will only count the number of variables that are defined properly. Like more means infinite, but there are means not enough variables to count. Like it can be 100, it can be 1,000, it can be a million. JavaScript doesn't know that. So what it does is it just counts the number of variables actually defined properly. So if we write over here C, then D, then E, so it will give us as value 5. Okay, because there are 5 known variables to the program. Okay. Then we have the callback function. Okay. What we do in callback function is we can add or subtract the values or means a part of the value from an array without affecting the array. Okay. Now here we have declared an array like const list, and then we have put some values as man, woman, and child. Okay. Now we will use this array to declare another array where we will give const new list. This is the name of the new array. Okay. Then list dot map. Okay. What we are doing is we are importing all the values from this array into this new array. Okay. So right now after this line, the value of this array and this array would be the same. Means new list and list would be equal. Okay. Then we declare the function value. Okay. Then return value plus equals to kind. What this will do is it will add the word means the term kind to all the values from the means array list. Now the new list will consider the terms man and then kind, then woman kind, child kind. Okay. Yeah, Siddharth has a question. Like we are copying the elements, right? No, Siddharth, we are not copying the elements. We are means importing the elements. Like here, to copy the elements, we can simply write new list equals to list. But what we are doing here is list.map, which means that it will also means it will also have the power to change the values of the array. Yeah, basically appending. Yeah, you this is right. So okay, then this is clear. Then there's promises. The promises are very pretty amazing thing in JavaScript. So over here we have so promises have two things. They can either be true, means they can either be resolved or they can be rejected. So it is kind of like if else, right? Means if we listen it in bare terms, like it can either be resolved or rejected, like if or else. But there is a means catch over there. In if and else, we know when the means when the function will fail. Like we declare it. If this is less than this, then this will happen, or else if this is less than greater than that, then this will happen. So in promise, we don't know when it will fail or how it will fail. We just know what would happen if it fails. Okay. So here, let's say the example is const weather equals to true. Okay. So we have declared a variable weather. Then const date, new promise, function resolve or reject. Okay. We have declared these two terms, resolve and reject. Now we have declared if weather, means if weather is true, what will happen is const details, all these details would be added to weather, to date. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then if it is resolved, means if the promise is resolved, these date details would be added to it. Okay. or else if it is rejected, then there will be an array bad weather so no date. So basically it is if else, but we don't need to means provide the condition of when it should succeed or when it should fail. It can succeed or it can fail, we don't know that, but we just know what would happen if it fails or if it succeeds. So this kind means promises are mostly used in API calls, like we have seen in the last session of the where we use the weather API. If the weather API is successfully called, then it will give us the JSON data, and if it does not means if it is not successful, then it will give us an error message. But why it is not coming, we don't need to know that. It can be due to network error, it can be due to server down. Okay. Okay, now inside promises there are two things, actually three things. Another should be okay. There are three things. The first is sync, async, and await. Okay, I forgot to mark them. Okay, now sync. So basically, sync is as it means as you can understand by the term. Sync means everything needs to go together. Okay, so in sync, what happens is if you means by default means every code you write is in sync. Okay, so if you write console.log hello, console.log this is a demo, console.log for sync function in JavaScript, the output would be hello. Then okay, so this would be the output, which means that it will go one by one as we have means given the input. Okay, one step after another. It will not skip any step. If there is an error in this step, for example, if we have missed this, the means it will stop. The whole function will stop. Okay, it will not go before this. So that can be. Now this is very means useful when we know that means for example in UI, so let's say there are 10 elements in a web page. So if the outer means outer box is not styled properly, the inner box will means have problems to means settle down properly. So we write all those functions in sync. So if there is a error in the outer box, it will simply stop. Okay, it will not the inner box to run. So so by default it is sync, so we don't have to do anything. We just simply write the code and it is in sync. That is a good thing for us. We don't have to define it every time. Okay, so next is async. So obviously async you can understand that it is the opposite of sync. So in async we can means we can define whether a function needs to wait, or it can just means if it is possible to do, then it will do, or else it will just skip the function. So here, for example, this is just a function, async function. So here we have declared return one, then f dot then alert one. So it is pretty simple to return one, so it will just give us one. But what if we write over here? Let's say in a website we have called three APIs. Okay, there is a weather API, there is a time API, and another one is a Google Maps API. So I want to means if any of the three APIs fail, I don't want the whole website to stop. Okay, I want that at least the other APIs would work. So what I do is we call the APIs with the async function. So what this will do is if there is an error in the Google Maps API, it will simply skip that one and it will run the other two. But if we don't give that, it will stop it, means it will stop the whole program because one of the functions is not working. So async is very useful, but it is means not used that means that comprehensively. Okay, now await. Now await function is more like means it is kind of an async, but there is a little bit of difference. So what happens is in await is means in async it will means when you don't do when a function is not means successful, it will just keep it, right? But in await, it will wait for the function means to be successful. It will try again and again and again. Like we have called, as I told you, if we have 3 API calls in one website, and there is an error in one of them, so it will run the other two, right? But it will keep trying means for this API. So although we are in the foreground we are not experiencing any updates, in the background it is means trying to update the other API. So that is the function of await. So any questions till now? Anyone? Any doubts? Await. Yeah, what is the question? Okay. So await function is a part of async, but in async we can simply means skip the function. If it is not working, we can skip it, right? It will not bother trying that function again. In async, it will wait. Means it will skip the function for the time, okay, but it will wait for the function to become successful later. So when means it will keep trying, and then when it is successful, then it will give the function, keep trying and it becomes successful. Okay, now let's go to namespacing. Now namespacing. Okay, we have completed this. Okay, namespacing. Now namespacing is a function where we can means define variables and okay, this is I think there is a mistake. Okay. Hmm. So yeah. So in namespacing, for example, there is single global variable, right? So here what we are doing is, for example, where my application, then we are defining something inside the function. Okay. And then we are defining what it will return. Okay. Now here we are only defining my application. Okay. Please repeat the async function like what it is doing. It is not clear. Okay. Async function, right? Now, so I am repeating this for Siddharth. So the async function, what it does is, for example, I am showing you with a uh, live over here. Okay. Now, let's say we have an error over here. Okay. So what should it do? Means what would it do normally if there was no async function? Anyone reply? What did you do? Means if the async function was not here. Yes, it is like a parallel circuit connection. If one light does not work, it won't disturb the other light. Yes, it is means exactly like that. but we will have to declare the async function in all the all the functions where there is a chance of failure. Okay, so it is it is like that, but we will have to define all the functions like that. Then it will be like a parallel connection. So here, what it will do is it will just not output this one. It will output hello for sync in JavaScript. Okay. So although there was an error, it didn't affect the program because of the async function. Now is it clear? Siddharth? So I'll take that as a yes. Okay. Okay, so we were in single global variable. Okay, that's done. Yeah, so in single global variable, we are only using one name to to invoke the function. Okay, for example, here my application, there can be many details within my application. Okay, but the problem is my application can only be declared for one single set of data. But in the next one, in prefix namespacing, what we are doing is we are using the my application as a prefix, and we are adding another part to that variable means function name. Sorry, variable name. Like here, my application property A. Then again, my application property B. What this will help us do is we can define it as function my application my method. So here we can, for example, we can write multiple sets of data. Okay. For example, there are 60 students in a class, and we want to declare the data for all the students. So if we use the single name over there, that will simply we will have to declare 60 different kinds of variables, right? Means 60 different variable names. That would be very confusing and very hard to manage. So instead, if we write, for example, the class is 6A. So here 6A roll number 1, 6A roll number 2, 6A roll number 3. So we can use the class name as a prefix. So that will allow us to simply write over here like now if I for example there are 60 students, right? So now if I want to get all the even numbered students, we can declare over it like 6A in my method. Then over here we can declare the my method divided by if my method divided by 2 equals to 0, return uh, the function, return the value, right? So that will give us all the data set of the students with even roll numbers. Okay, is it clear? Okay. Now again, there is object literal notation. Okay. Now in object literal notation, where what we are doing is for example, here we have given where my application, and then we have given a set of data. Okay, but we have declared that set of data inside another local function. Now what this will do is this my application is a variable, right? But this variable is storing a function. It simply in general what we do is we store variables within a function, but here we are storing a function within a variable. So here, if we write get info function, then we can input the JSON data over here. Okay, now we don't need to call a function. Like when you define the data within a function, you have to call the function, right? So sometimes that can cause an error, or it can take more time to load. But what happens over here is yeah, what happens over here is we will simply have to call the variable. As we all know, the means calling a variable is means the chances of getting an error is less because a variable stores value, but a function stores means if a function is stored in cache, so it will have a return value. It will have means uh, an arithmetic or something. So that can that can be solved with object return notation. Okay, now this one is IIFE, which stands for immediately invoked function expression. Okay, this is also like the new function. If we go back, yeah, like in new function we declared the variable, and we also declared what it will we defined what it will do within the same line, right? So in immediately invoke function expression, we can go one step ahead. So here this is there are two ways to write this. Okay, so this is the first way. We declare the function. So in the first way, we don't need to give any function name. Okay, now we if you know means every function needs a function name, or else it will not be stored in the memory. Okay, but here using the arrow function, we can store it without using any function name. Now we defined what it will do. Console.log, this is an IF, it will output this into the log. Okay, now this is a difference between a normal function and an immediately invoked function expression. Okay, as soon as we write this, okay, and load this, you don't even have to call the function. Like in a normal function, if you uh, okay, wait, yeah, like over here, if I define this function, to get the value, I'll have to call the function, right? Like over here, I'll have to give the inputs and call the function. But in the immediately invoked function, yeah, in the immediately invoked function, we don't need to call the function. As soon as the program is compiled, it will run the function. Now, to do that, we use this invoked expression. This expression is called the invoke expression. If you remember, we used this in another place. In async. Okay, in async, we used it in single global variable. We used this. So this simply means that you don't have to call the function from another variable. You can simply run the function as soon as the whole program loads. Uh, the another way of defining this function is this function means with the function name. Okay, now if you give the function name, you don't need the arrow function anymore. Okay, now over here, if you give the arrow function, it will give us an error. You can see. Okay, either you give a function name or you give an arrow. You don't do both. This will also do the same thing. Console.log, this is an IIP. Okay, now an alternate to this would be this a normal function. Then we console log call the function. Okay, so this would be the alternative to this, but here you need to call it. But in invoke, you don't need to call it. It will run automatically. Okay, so then is the namespace injection. Now namespace injection is very useful. It is, I would say, the most useful function that you can use in JavaScript. Now you have to understand this one properly. Okay, sir, alert will also call the function. Yeah, obviously. There are many ways. We use the alert. we use the alert over here in recursion, right? Alert means console. These are simply means if you don't have a HTML means HTML element to output to, we simply use these as means to get a output easily in the console or as an alert. Okay, these are nothing means special. Okay, now the last one is namespace injection. So so the namespace injection. Okay, so here we have declared a variable myapp. Okay, and then we have declared subsets of the variable. Here, if we have declared utils and we haven't given any value yet. Okay, now we have declared a function. Then we have put the data set. Okay, here we have given where value equals to 5. Then this dot get value we have declared another local function. Then return value. Here the this will give us 5. Okay, remember this. Then we are declaring another function, another we can say subset, set value. In set value we have declared function new value, and value equals to new value means we are importing the value of the variable val into another variable called new val. Then again we have declared these dot tools. We haven't given any output. Okay, now this line is very important. What we have done is we have applied all this data into the myapp.utils subset. This is means kind of like a subset. Okay, like in CSS we have properties or attributes. Sorry, not in attributes or HTML thing. In CSS we have properties. So in JavaScript these are like the property of a variable. Okay, now we can like this was the first set of data. Now we can again call another function, and then again we can add more subsets like this dot diagnose. This will means give us a output as diagnosis. Okay, that term diagnosis. Then we are again adding that. Now what we are doing is we are adding that into a sub property of this property. Like myapp.utils is a property. We are applying it into another means property inside the myapp.utils .tools. Okay. Now let's check it. So console.log myapp. So what it will do is it will give us all these values. Like here it will give us the get val, that is the 5. Then here it will give us new val. New val is as new val is equals to val, it will return 5. Then it will give us this dot tools, which is the value would be null. Then it will give us the value of diagnose, which is diagnosis. Okay. Then if I give console.log myapp.utils.get value, which is over here. Okay, myapp.utils inside this dot get val. So it will give us, obviously it will give us 5 as we have seen. Now this is the twist. We can change the value. Okay, if you see over here, the set value is equals to means in set value we have declared that this new variable that we declared new val is equals to val, right? But we don't want that to be equal to 5. We want to change that. So here we have done myapp.utils set value 25. Okay, so as the new value is equals to val, okay, it will also change this new val will become, it was 5, now it will become 25, as we have means the input was 25. Now, as the val is equals to new val, okay, that will also become 25. So this return value will also become 25. All right. Now if we again check this one, the this last one, console.log myapp.utils.get value. it will give us the value 25 because the value of the variable val has changed to 25. Okay. Now we can again also test this means uh, data we have added to this utils.tools. So this will give us the term diagnosis as we have defined it over here. Okay. Okay, so that was means all the functions that we would be studying today. So any doubts so far? You can unmute and ask. Okay. Others? Okay, so okay, so there are no doubts. So this was the first part of the. Okay, so can you please repeat the single and prefix namespace? Okay, yeah. So in single namespace, tail after loser part. Uh, oh, closer part. Okay, wait. First, let me answer Siddharth. So Siddharth, yeah. So in the single prefix, sorry, it is not single prefix. It is single global variable. So here, what we have done is we define a means single variable and we uh, input the data into that. Okay. Now we can change it, or we can, let's say, means as we have seen in namespace injection, we can add more value into it. We can change the value. We can subtract the value, right? But in prefix namespace, what we can do is we can use means multiple sets of data with a common prefix. What this will help us to do is it will help us bind all those data into a set. Okay, like here, if I have let's say property A, property B, property C, like this, I have 26, like up to property Z. If I call all of them by my application, my method, okay, that will call all the 26, and then if I define over here, means return vowels. So means it is not like that. If I write return vowels, it will not give that. I'll have to define it, but I'm just means showing it as an example. So that will give us only all the like my application property A, then it will give us my application property E, like that. Okay. So prefix namespacing can be used where there are multiple sets of data within means uh, with a common link. Okay, like as I said, if there are 60 students in a class, the prefix namespace can be the class means a classroom, and we can use the second part means with the roll numbers of the students or the names of the students. Like 6A could be Siddharth, 6 means 6A can be Yudish. Okay, yeah, you this just like a particular class has different sections. If we take class 6 and the sections are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then 6 will be the prefix. Yes, like over here, means for example, when the principal declares a notice, like tomorrow will be a holiday for class 5, 6, and 7, right? So that means all the sections in 5, 6, and 7, right? 5A, 5B, 5C, 6A, 6B. So prefix name spacing is like that. It can help us define a number of data sets into a set. Is it clear, Siddharth? Okay. Okay, now Monodeep, tell after closer part. Okay, closer. So closer. Now, Monodeep, understand this properly. First, we have to understand recursion. Okay, in recursion, we define the function. Okay, here we have defined the power function. Okay, the power of a number. For example, 2 to the power 3 is 8, 2 to the power 4 is 16, like that. So here we have defined if n equals to 0, so that would give us 1. Else if n equals to 1. Now, when we call the recursion function, we give the inputs as 4 and 2, which is the value of x and n. That will give us means the calculated output, but that will not change anything in the function. Okay, so the function will stay as it is. Now, why is that? Because as I said, in the immediately invoked function, like a normal function is a closed function. Yeah, someone unmuted. Yeah, Manoj, is there anything you want to say?
So here recursion 4 square equals to 16 and 5 cubes equals to 125.
Yeah. Okay. So that is means in recursion, right? But as we have seen in immediately invoked function, in closure we add the invoke expression, right? So what that will do is we have defined the function over here, count equals to 0. Then we have defined whenever we call the counter, it will increment the value by means by default it will increment by 1, or if we input a number, that it will increment by that number. Okay, and then we have defined over here, means we have called the variable add. So what it will do is it will increment the value of this counter by 1. Okay, so now the value of the counter is, instead of 0 it will become 1. Then again when we call add, and this time we give an input of 3. Now previously it was the value of the counter was 1, then it adds 3. So 2, 3 and 4, the value of this it will become 4. And if we again call it as -2, so it will give us 4 plus -2, that is 2. It will become 2. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any more doubts in these 10 functions? Trisha, Srijita, Sunny, Riza, Priyanka, Jayanto, Gaurav, Anindita, all those guys. I hope you all have no doubts. Okay. Okay. So now give me 2 minutes. I'll set up the other part. Okay. Okay. So Now let's see the second part. Okay, so till now we have seen the functions part of JavaScript, right? Now we are going to see. Can you guys see the screen? Everything is clear or not? Is it visible now? Okay, okay. Yeah. So now we are going to see the canvas function. Okay. If you, as you know, in JavaScript, there is this canvas. Means sorry, in HTML there is this canvas function, but means you cannot do anything without JavaScript on it. Okay. You can say if the canvas is so the canvas function actually uses the JavaScript to means work properly. So this thing is like paint. Okay, so here you can draw. Okay, you can change the color. Let's say, yeah. Now you can also add new colors over here. You can by selecting the RGB value of the color. Okay, so kind of like a violet color. So add color. So that will add the violet color. Now we can draw with the violet color. Okay, so let's see how this is working. So first of all, in HTML, we simply take, we declare the canvas means tag, okay, and we here this width and height is very important, okay. If we don't define this, then see this it will automatically means it will take a default size and it will be very small, okay. So width and height, and yeah, if you define this width and height by CSS, let me show you. Width, let's say 400 pixels, and the height say 200 pixels, okay, but you will lose the calibration. See where the cursor is when the point is being made, okay. So canvas is not a div, remember this. You have to define the means canvas's width and height within that tag. Okay, you can increase it if you want. Okay, now we'll see all these parts like controls and all these later. Okay, this crosshair, we'll see all these things later. First of all, let's learn how to work with this canvas. So okay, we styled it. Okay, we gave it a color. You can change the background color. There is no restrictions to that. Okay, you can choose any color you want. Okay, now we have defined all those. Okay, now let's go to JavaScript and declare where canvas. Okay, now this is actually working with jQuery. Does it take values in viewport width and height? Yeah, obviously. Mm, it is not actually viewport width and height. It is means 600. It is actually taking it in pixels. But you can define the means in viewport height and width with JavaScript. Let's not go into that. That is means not so important part. Very you can do that easily. So now let's first of all, this is a means we are working with graphics over here. Okay, so first of all, we have to declare a context whether we are working in 2D or 3D. Okay, so we are declaring by context, get context 2D. So here we have defined that we are working in the 2D. Okay, now this is a very important thing, 0. What this does is this will take the first element, is 0th element, as the means this canvas variable. If you give 1 over here or 2 over here, that can be an issue. Okay, but if you give 0, then all the functions will work properly. Like, okay, then we are given where canvas. Now this will take the canvas, means element, it will store it into this variable canvas. Okay. Now these are these events will be will be used for the drawing part. First of all, let's understand the colors part. Okay, so this is the where color selected css background color. Okay, so this can be defined in css, or it can be defined in js. Like here we have declared we are selecting blue, right? So that blue is for drawing, but in a similar way we can also select a background color, like we can do in paint. If I open paint, okay, so let's say red. Okay, can do this kind of the background color over here also. So to do that, you will have to define color elements like this. Okay, and then you just select it and the background will become that color. But I haven't done that because I want to you guys to add that element. So then we are means that is done with the canvas. Means we have defined that it is a canvas and we are working on 2D here. Then we need to go to the drawing part. Okay, now we are just going to work with the means to how to put a stroke in here. We will not define the colors right now. So here, mm, yeah. So this is the stroke part. Now understand this properly. I will explain line by line. So first of all, what we are doing is we are detecting. How many of you know jQuery? First of all, how many of you understand jQuery? Reply with yes or no. It is not very complex, but still you need to have some idea of it. Okay. Anyone? Okay. So there are a lot of people who don't know jQuery. Okay. So first of all, let me show you a little bit of jQuery. Then it will understand this because this one is a little bit complex, not very much, but little bit. Give me 2 minutes. No, it's not that complicated. It's almost like JavaScript. Okay, so this is not a complete. This is not a complete program. I didn't. I was not able to complete due to time. I had some important work, but I hope this will help you understand the basic parts. So here, what this program was supposed to do was it was basically like when you click start, it will give us like there is pineapple. Then it will there are images of many fruits. Okay, so what it will do is first of all when you click start, it will show us all the fruits in a jumbled order. Okay, then the name of the fruit will appear like pineapple. You will have to remember which card was the name of the fruit. So if you click that fruit, then again a new name will be given, and you'll there will be progress. But if you click the wrong card, it will stay the same, but you will lose a life. Okay, so that was the supposed to be the game, but I was not able to complete it. I had some work last night. So let me explain you. Only the last part is not done. Rest all are done mostly. So uh, okay, here we have declared the array. Okay, first of all, for jQuery you have to link. This is very important. Okay, kind of KBC. Yeah, you can say that. It's kind of like memory game. If you remember the memory games, like card matching or like number matching, pattern matching, all those kind of games. So this to use jQuery, you will have to always link the jQuery library. Okay, it means the jQuery library will use means all the functions. Like for example, when you use Bootstrap, now don't say you some of you don't know Bootstrap. How many of you don't know Bootstrap? Say you don't know Bootstrap. Okay, that is an issue. Okay, so this is a library. Okay, what it does is it means all the functions that we are writing over here, like dollar dot card. This dollar dot card is a replacement for document dot get element by ID card. Sorry, document dot element query selector card. Okay. Now instead of that, we are rewriting dollar dot card. This dollar is called selector. Okay. This is equivalent to document dot get element get query. Sorry, query selector or document dot get element by ID. Now, to recognize that, you will need to link this library. All of these functions are defined on this library. Let me show you. Okay, over here, if you see, there is all of these functions are defined here. Okay, so this is called a library. So there are lots of different kinds of libraries. Like this is a jQuery.min. It's a minified version. You can also get the full version, or you can get more minified version like slim.minified version. Where there are no like white spaces, like all these white spaces. There would be no white spaces. Okay, so that's it. Now let's get into the main programming. Okay. How many of you attended my last session where I made the word game? If you have attended, then you will know what I have done over here. Where seconds equals to 60, and where fruits, where new array. These things are means similar to the last game. Okay, so where in the where fruits I have stored all the name of the fruits that will appear over here. Okay, then I declared the timer as 60 seconds. That is the max limit. Then where fruit is, the fruit is where we will store the cards, fruit cards. Okay, the new array is where we will store means all the name of the fruits that we have already clicked. Okay, like if we click apple, it will not come again. The apple will means it will be removed from the array. Okay, otherwise the game won't end. Then we are declaring a function jumble. Okay, now here until here everything is similar to JavaScript. Okay, totally same. Now jQuery starts. We are using the selector $dot card and each function. Now if you remember in JavaScript we would have to write for each, right? But here we can simply write each. So that means jQuery helps us to means, write less code and have more functions. Like in JavaScript, if you want to rotate an element, you will have to write means document.get element by id dot style dot rotate x equals to 90 degrees. But in in jQuery, you'll have to write dollar then name of the element dot rotate 90 degrees. Okay, it's that simple. All means all of the things that we write in JavaScript are defined within functions inside the library. So dollar dot card each function. Then array dot push. What it will do is it will push the card that will be clicked. For example, I click the third card, so the third card will be pushed into the new array. Okay, so the third card will not appear again. In console.log array, that is simply to test means whether the thing was working or not. Okay, I think the console.log array would work if I remember correctly. Okay, okay, the images are not so that is an error. Okay, console.log array. Then what we are doing is we're defining the means length of the array, which is I think 13. It is about 11 or 13, 12 or 13. Okay. Then we are jumbling the fruits. Jumbling, we obviously know how to do that. Map.store random. Okay, we are randomizing all the arrays. Then we are outputting that array. It's the jumbled array. Console.log jumbo. Then here fruit.spice in array jumbo fruits 1. Now this is a jQuery function. Okay. Now you will have to understand this as we did with in JavaScript. We wrote how to delete an element from an array, right? Like if you want to delete the first element, you write stack. Sorry, not stack. Pop. No, that was for last element. Yeah. If you want to delete the last element from an array in JavaScript, you will write pop, right? But here we write spice. So splice is alternative to JavaScript. Okay. Then we write console.log fruits. That is the means old function, old array, where we stored all the original fruit. So every time the fruits will be outputted, one fruit will not be there because we removed that. When we clicked on a card, we are removing that fruit from the fruits array. Okay, then $this. Now in JavaScript, how we define is how we detect which element is clicked is by document.get element by id, the name of the div, then add event listener click. Right here we write $this. That stands for the element which we click. For example, I clicked on the button, so that will means that button div will get into the this. Okay. Now this.css will become the background image. These are things you will not understand right now because the program is not complete. But I hope you understood the jQuery part. Please ask any questions on any part you didn't understand. Please ask. jQuery, I cannot explain jQuery to you just by showing you how to do it. You'll have to do it by yourself to understand how it works. Okay. There are lots of functions in jQuery which you will understand when you do practice yourself. For example, over here, when we for clicking, we, as I said, add event listener click, right? But here you don't need all those things. Here, see, $start, that is the start button. Means start button's div is that with ID start. Okay, so $starts, that is selecting this start button, and dot click, so that is add event listener click. That much of code into a single word. Okay, so that is jQuery. It simplifies the code without reducing any function. Okay, so let's get back to the canvas one. Okay, now we need to detect the stroke. How does a stroke how is the stroke being drawn? As we do in Paint, when we click the mouse on the screen and then we drag the mouse, the path of the mouse is defined as a stroke, right? So here, first we are detecting mouse down. Now, if we were in JavaScript, we would have to write add event listener mouse down. We are in jQuery, so simply mouse down. Very simple. Okay. Then function E, that is we are declaring it as an event. Whenever the mouse is down, means we are clicking on the screen, that is an event. Okay, means that will define the start of a stroke. Okay, beginning of a stroke. Like if you drag the mouse like this, nothing is happening, right? But if I click the mouse, that means now if I drag the mouse, it will define a stroke. Okay. Now there is a problem with this. You cannot draw a dot like what we would do in Paint to draw a dot. So in Paint on the gives us a it will not give we can do that over here. Like, for dot we will have to function that will be a little bit complex. I haven't done that. So that we define how the stroke will take place. So the last event is E. Okay. So what this will do is mouse whenever is we are clicking, that is an event. The event is being stored inside the variable last event. Okay. Then mouse down equals to true. As soon as I click, it declares mouse down as true. Okay. If I'm not clicking, then mouse down is false over here. Whenever I means lift the click, it the mouse down goes back to false. Okay, now it will not give any stroke. So yeah, so then okay, so we have detected the mouse down. Okay, now what we need to do? So what will happen when we move the mouse while clicking it? So dot mouse move. Okay, so the dot mouse move function will detect any movement on the mouse while being clicked. Remember, this is very important. We have defined dot mouse move as a subset of this function. See, we haven't closed this function with semicolon. We have just this is a continuation of the above function. Okay, if you want to change the size of the line, we can add that. Yeah, we can do that, but I'll show that to you later. Is we can do many things in that. Means first understand how we are drawing the stroke. So the mouse run, the mouse move is a subset of mouse down. Okay, so when we move the mouse, what should happen? It should draw a line. So if mouse down, then what will happen is context dot begin path. Now, what does begin path means? So let me clear it. When I move the mouse through means certain pixels, that will define a path. Okay, this is the path. If there was, suppose it was a map, let's say this was an island and this was a bigger island. Okay, so if I took a boat from here, let's say there are some stones or corals over here. If I took a boat from here, from this boat, I'll have to path. I will have to take a path like this, right? So this is a path. So similarly, every stroke that I draw is a path. So it means when I click the mouse and start moving my mouse, that defines the beginning of the path. Okay. Then context dot move to last event dot offset x. So now this is means okay, mouse down is for clicking and mouse move is for the movement, right? Yes, exactly, Siddharth. Now this the next line is very important. Understand this. When I click means and draw means I draw a path. This was the big means ending of the path. Let me show you. Like this portion would be the ending of the path, right? Now, when I means just a second. Yeah. So when I means click again, so that should give me another path. But how will we do that? The means path has ended there and it has stayed there. So what we do is we define as the last event as dot offset x, which means whenever means I'm means as soon as I lift the mouse, means as I zoom click the mouse, okay, whenever I'm moving the mouse, the path is moving with me. It is not beginning the path, but the means how would I say? It is moving with the cursor. Means offset x means it is offset x is like in 2D. If you divide the screen into graph, okay, let me clear it. Like if you divide it into a graph, sorry, it is not defined like this. It is defined like this. Okay, we are in a quadrant of the screen. Okay, so this, let's say this is x and this is y. Okay, so when I am over here, okay, so let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I am at 7x. Okay, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm at about 6. Okay, 6y. So that is my position. My offset x is 7x. Offset y is 7y. Now this is it is means these divisions are not so big. It is very small. Every single pixel is one division. So like this would be about 1,000 or 100. Okay. Yeah, it would be 100x. So so that is offset x and offset y. So the path is moving with the cursor. So when I click on a path, it immediately starts the path. It defines the starting of the path. Okay. So then context dot line to e dot offset x, e dot offset y. Okay. So when I lift the mouse, it will define. Okay. This is this second line is also very important. Understand this. when I am clicking the mouse and drawing it, it is still being defined as a path. Okay? But as soon as I lift the mouse, now this is being defined as a line. Okay, so from here to here, it will stay there. Okay, like right now, if I'm clicking, if I want to keep it over here, okay, but I'm not unclicking the mouse and I'm moving, it keeps moving. Okay, so it is not means it is not yet a line. What does a line mean? A line means is a vertical or means a defined stroke that has a particular means defined length, but this does not have any length. It is infinite. I can keep drawing and drawing. Okay, but as soon as I leave it, now it has a connect 2 points. It means it has a defined length. So now it is a line. Okay, so then so that is how we are means defining the stroke. Okay, any doubts till now? If it is means if you are not understanding it, please ask.
Last event, is that a keyword or just a variable?
No, last event is a keyword. Last
Achha.
event is means valid JavaScript or jQuery keyword.
So it's basically just the action that has been just done before.
Yeah. Yes.
Achha.
When you declare context, get context 2D, so then uh, means this offset x and offset y is defined. If you declare 3D, there will be another means
Offset
as we
Z.
know in z offset z will be there. But
Okay.
we will work with 3D later. Means I have some projects on 3D that I will show you guys. Those are very interesting. Okay. Mm. Okay. So Siddharth has a question. Here, what's the difference between the last event and E? Okay. Last event is means when you lifted the mouse. Okay. It's when you have left the click. Okay. For example, I have clicked over here. Now, this point where I left the mouse was the last event. Okay. But when I means when I'm moving the mouse and I suddenly click over here. Okay. Now this starting point from where I started clicking, that was an E. That is the beginning of the event. Last event means ending of an event, and E means beginning of an event. Understood, Siddharth? Okay. Okay. So now, who asked about the? Okay, Yudish. If you want to change the size of the lane, we can add that? Yeah. See, we here we are writing context.stroke style color, right? Now here we are writing color because we are means selecting the color. If we don't want to do that, we want a particular color. Let's say the black line. So it should be like okay, sorry, okay, black. So now if I replace it, uh, pardon me, I think I'm missing something.
Inverted comma was
Mm,
banaki.
no, inverted comma. I don't think so. Oh, sorry, my bad. Thanks, Gaurav. Okay. So if you don't want means to say select these colors, okay. We if we want a single color, so we can write it as means we can define that color over here only. So black. So if I select blue or yellow, it won't matter over here. Okay. So let's keep that as color. I will show you how to change the color as well. Now stroke. Okay. Now till now I defined how means the stroke means how we are drawing the stroke, okay, but I haven't yet declared that yes, please draw the stroke. When I do all these things, please draw the stroke, okay, with this color, okay. So here we are declaring it as context.stroke. So means when I've done this all these things, like I've started the event, I've moved the mouse, then I've lifted the event, and it takes the color from here. Like right now I'm with red, so I take blue, it will do blue. After that, it means give gives the order to the browser that yes, draw the stroke. Okay, then the last event is equals to E. What does this mean? Yes. So okay, now as I have done this, means I have drawn the stroke. I don't need this last to be my last event anymore. It is a stroke. I don't need to do anything with it. Okay. So I want to move to the next stroke. So what do? I declare that the last event would be equal to E. Yes, whenever I'm moving the mouse, the last event and E both are moving with me. As soon as I begin the stroke, that will means that will be defined as my new last event. Okay. Okay. The stroke means thickness of the stroke, right? Size of the line. Yeah. So the size of the line can be defined as style to okay. Uh, I haven't done this for many days. I think I'm forgetting it. God, do you remember?
3 পিক্সেলটাকে একবার 30 পিক্সেল ট্রাই করে দেখো না।
না না ওটা নয়। এই যে এটা আছে না, এটাতে চেঞ্জ হবে। অনেকদিন আগে এটা করে সব ভুলে গেছি। Wait, আমি এক্ষুনি বলছি।
ये लाइन विथ लगता है।
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, my bad. Thanks, Gaurav, once again. Line width, and we don't need all these things. It should be just 10. And line width is only defined up to 12, I think. Now, so you this, I hope I have answered your question. So line width, okay, now the 10 we can reduce it by 3. Okay, it will be a thinner line. Okay, so the line width can also be means it can also be a variable. Like you can put a slider over here to increase the thickness. Just as in paint, you can select the brush size. Okay, so we can now create a row where different line width will be present. Yeah, obviously. So in HTML you can do that, and then the value of the slider will be the value of the this line width. Okay, so by default it is always 1. So if I don't write this, of course we can make a game like Skibus. I'll show you. So that is a more advanced part. If you want to see a demo, I'll show you a demo, but you won't be able to understand how it happened. So here, if I draw a rectangle, it means recognizes it as a rectangle and it fills it. Okay. Now if I draw a square, it will define means recognize it as a square. Okay. Now, just like we are doing with square and rectangles, you can define means fruits or bicycles or anything you want. Okay. It, it can recognize many shapes, but all those need to be polygons. You cannot do a circle because a circle has means infinite number of vertices, so it is very hard to means, recognize all the vertices. Okay, that is an advanced part, very advanced part of this same application that we will do much later. For now, let's see how this is happening. Okay, is it getting boring, anyone? I hope not. But if it is getting boring, please say. Okay, so let's continue. Mouse up. So now we have defined what will happen when mouse is down and when we move the mouse, right? But when we move the mouse means when we leave the click, what will happen now? So that we need to define. Now remember, as I told you, the mouse move was a continuation of the mouse down function. The mouse up is also a continuation of this mouse move function. See, if you see, we have not closed any of the brackets totally yet. There are no semicolons. This is a continuation of this bracket. Okay, this is a continuation of this bracket. This is a continuation of this bracket. This is very important. If I give semicolon over here, the whole program means will not work. Okay, let me show you. See, no stroke, because it will just not means recognize what will happen is how is the means how will I end the program. Okay, so it's very important to understand that it is a single function. Means there are many of the single function, but all of those are inside the same canvas dot mouse down. It is a continuation of that function. Okay. Now mouse up. As soon as we unclick the mouse, this mouse down which was true will become false. Okay. So now if I lift the mouse and drag the mouse, nothing will happen. No stroke. Okay. So that is means that will define the end of the stroke. Okay. Then the continuation of the same function, mouse leave. So mouse leave is basically if I leave the canvas. Okay. If I'm leaving the canvas, so that means for us that is mouse up, right? But for the canvas that is not mouse up. That is mouse leave. That is another function. Now, if we declare like here, the whole screen is a canvas. I have defined the whole screen as means the width and height. Okay, but here as the whole screen is not means the canvas. So there are parts of the screen where I cannot draw a stroke. Okay, so for the canvas we need to define it that when I am outside the canvas, that is means mouse leave. Okay, that means mouse leave is equivalent to mouse up. That we need to define over here. When I'm leaving the canvas, that is equal to canvas dot mouse up. Understood? Guys, this was the means most important part of this topic. So did you guys understand this? Please ask any questions, any doubt if you have. If you don't understand this, you will not understand the means more advanced one. Okay, understood, Gaurav? Anyone? Yeah, it was not too hard. I told you. jQuery is not hard. It is just means uh, most of the functions are predefined. You just need to practice to know all the functions. Okay. So now we will need to work with the color of the stroke. So first of all, let's define the means. Let's see how we get these three colors. Okay. So these are predefined colors. So for this, we simply go to HTML and we define three divs. Okay, blue, yellow, and red. Okay, then we define the style and the background color. when I click it, it will set the value of the color, means the variable color, to red. No, sorry, this is not one. Yeah, so it will set the value to red. Okay, when I click the sorry, my bad, this is the one. Whichever color I select, it will toggle the color of the stroke to that color. If I select yellow, it will become yellow. If I select blue, it will select, means become blue. Select red, it will become red. Okay. Then when I click new color, these are called sliders. Okay. So here what happens is this is a means length. Now this is divided into, means the, if I give the value from 1 to 10, it will be divided into 10 parts. So if I put it over here, it will become about 7. Okay. So as in RGB, we know there is from 0 to 255, there are 266 numbers. It will be like, let's say about 42, 43. And green would be like 210 or so, and blue would be like 0. So that is green. So if we add color, it will become a new color. And now if you select that color, it will become the color of the stroke. It is pretty simple. Okay. If you have understood this part, this is nothing. Okay. So that's it. So now I want to you guys to do 2 things. Okay. First of all, I didn't create this one. Okay, means I have created similar ones, but this was very beautifully designed. So I have taken the design from the other project. Okay, the functionality I have added, but the design has been taken from another project. Okay. So now what I want you guys to do is add an eraser. Okay, an eraser and the thickness. You this, as you told, that we can add a div in the, is somewhere in the screen to increase or decrease the thickness. I want you guys to do that. How you will guys do that? I'll means give you some hints. You can use this slider. Okay. Now the thickness is only up to 12. You cannot go above 12. Okay. See 12. Now if I go above that, it will not do anything. It may give me an error. Okay. So remember that when you define the slider, give it the range from 1 to 12. Okay, that, and add an eraser. That is the task for you guys. Erase or delete everything present on the screen. Yeah, that is clear. It's what you are saying is clear. That is a function. If I add like, I think, yeah, here it is. Okay, so if you can see, let me increase the, okay, this clear button, if I click it, the whole screen is being cleared. But I am not talking about that. This is simple, add the clear function. But I want you guys to find a way to erase the stroke. Any ideas how you can do that? This is pretty simple. Actually, if I tell you how you will do that.
আরে আলাদা স্ট্রোক একটা করব আর ওটার কালারটা ক্যানভাসের ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড কালার হবে।
আলাদা স্ট্রোক কেন করবি?
মানে যদি সেম প্রিন্সিপাল যদি করি তাহলে ক্যানভাসের ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডের সাথে ম্যাচিং কালার দিয়ে মানে ওই স্ট্রোকটার উপরেই ইয়ে হবে।
হ্যাঁ, তো ওটাই তো বলছি, মানে বেসিক্যালি একটা ইরেজার থাকবে যেখানে ওটা ক্লিক করলে ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডে যে, হ্যাঁ অবভিয়াসলি ডোন্ট টেক ইট অ্যাজ হোয়াইট অলওয়েজ, বিকজ যদি ওকে মাউস মুভ অ্যানাদার ফাংশন, মাউস মুভ অ্যানাদার ফাংশন এক্স্যাক্টলি নট, মিন্স ওটা করলে ব্রেক করতে পারে। দ্য বেস্ট থিং উড বি ডু ইজ টু, মিন্স change the color of the stroke to the background color. Remember, don't do it white, because if the background color is red, then it will make white lines. So take the background color as the color of the stroke. Okay, another thing, this line type. This line type can also be changed. Here, I think the line type is rectangle, right? Line width 1. Okay, give me a second. Dot stroke. Hmm. Okay. Uh, no, I think this is the wrong one. Just a second. Okay. How many guys are still here? Okay, there are quite a few. So there are some more functions that you can do. Let's say I want to write, means have you seen all these brushes where, means like in PixArt there is a brush where you write the text, and you just means drag the cursor across the screen and it will draw, means it will write the text, means in the path. So you can do that very easily here. Stroke text, let's say demo, and we need to define the colors. First of all, we need to define the thickness, then the let's say 30. Okay, so now, okay, this is very, yes. Let's try something smaller. Okay, why is it not working? Okay, okay, sorry, my bad. We have to define the font. Something does not seems to be right. Okay. Font context dot font, right? Okay, so I'll show you how to do the text tomorrow. I think I'm missing something. I'll show you how to draw different shapes for today. So if I want to draw a rectangle, just like we do in Paint, we select the rectangle and we drag to create a rectangle, right? So here, let's define the sides. So let's define the height 30, 30, and then let's define the width as 60. Then I think we need a thickness, and okay, so yeah, so the width 30 and style 60. Okay, so this we can do 150 and 260. Sorry, 260. Okay, so we can draw a rectangle like this. So this is like the starting point and this is the ending point. It will start from 50, it will go till to 60. Okay, so you can draw various shapes like this. For example, you can draw triangle. For that, these parameters are different, but the basically it is just like you draw shapes in various drawing sites. It is similarly like that. You just need to give the proper commands. I don't remember all these by heart because this is not. This is kind of a fun project. This is only a basic thing. I haven't ever used it for any project. So sorry, that was my bad that I don't remember all the inputs by heart. Okay, so that was today's session. So thank you guys. We will again mm, tomorrow. We will again start another session from 11, the second part of this session. You guys can leave now, and if you haven't followed DSC yet, follow it here.